Good or evil? Actually, I think this is supposed to be good. This is evil, and this is like chaotic neutral. Anyway, today we'll go over the. I guess we'll do the Oracle Think Tank one. We'll do Shadow Paladins last. So today we're gonna be looking at the Oracle Think Tank Witches. So this is a deck that hasn't really seen play until now, I guess. At first I thought that Floral Witchmaster Mimi was really good. It sounded really good on paper, but in reality it's really I feel like it's no better than the Transcore Stride, that Martial Dragon thing. So hence why she's actually very easy to obtain. She's very affordable. That, and you have to run Witches in the deck, which are not Oracle Think Tank's strong point right now. But it's still a fairly fun deck, and it's still a competent deck because of all the critical triggers. So if anyone's wondering, it does run 12 crits still, as most Oracle Think Tanks do. So I guess we'll get started here with the grade 3s. So for Rose Red Witch Cuckoo, so she is basically a better Coco. So when she's placed on VRR, you can, if you have a witch in the name, or a Vanguard with witch in the name, and she is a witch, so when you place her on Vanguard, she will do her effect of Counterblast 1, draw 2 cards, choose a card from your hand, discard it. So basically, like, you ride her +1. If you call her to rearguard for whatever reason, you +2. So, well, you +1 still, so. And of course, the other grade 3 is Scarlet Witch Coco, because it's the witch deck. If you want to be able to use Mimi consistently, you gotta run this over Susano. So this is one of those decks I actually took apart my GB2 Susano deck for this. So both of them do the same exact thing when they're placed on V. She also has the effect when she's on R. The only difference is that she is an older card with 10k, and she is a Counterblast 2. And also, the one thing I needed to remember was that the soul, I need to mention this, is the soul has to be 1 or less. So that restricts you to a certain starter. And those who have played Vanguard long enough to know what Oracle Think Tank uses as a typical starter probably already know who that starter is. For grade 2s, this is where it did change quite a bit. Here I am running 3 Rock Witch Gaga. I'm only running her because of Witch in the name. What she does, she's a card from set 9, so she came out with Vermilion the Blood and the Amaterasu cross ride, and you know the ultimate break stuff basically. So when she attacks on Vanguard or Rearguard, if you do not have any cards in your soul, you can draw a card and then choose 1 card from your hand and put it on the bottom of the deck. So it can potentially like cycle through your hand, cycle through your deck, but it's so weak because it's 7k. I don't really know what they were thinking by making the 7k. I feel like it should have been 8k. But yeah, it's 7k, so it does have some issues forming proper numbers. And then I am running the 4 Silent Tom, try to just make the deck as competitive as possible, so Silent Tom can really make that happen. The one problem with the deck is because there's so many like weak, like this is 8k, this is 7k, they're prone to getting rushed, especially if you have to ride her. But she doesn't have to hit, and she can cycle through your hand. And then the other grade 2 is for Diviner Kuroi Kazuchi, because he is the Amber clone, and there's not a whole lot else for them to run, honestly. So just, you want to try to run, you want to have a witch for grade 3, a grade 2, grade 1, and grade 0. So basically, in order for Mimi to be consistent enough, from what I found playtesting, that's why this is in here, you need to at least run a witch in every single grade of the deck, from 0 to 3. So otherwise you'll have some issues where there's no point striding her. For grade 1s, speaking of the witches, so 4 of Emerald Witch Lala, she can basically, she's a drop and draw if you have no cards in your soul. And then for Arbiter Ame no Sagiri, this, you can run this or Battle Witch Coco or even the Tetra Maze. It doesn't really matter. I run this because of the Stride deck having the Thunderbreak guy that counterblasts 2. So because of all that counterblast from the Stride, I still run this guy, although I have actually considered, and she's a counterblast 2. But I have actually thought about taking this out because I like to protect my Silent Toms. So yeah. And then for Imperial Shrine Guard, just because of Silent Tom, you need to make 16k with him. It doesn't really help Gaga at all because she is 7k. Like, I really feel like she should have been 8k. And then 2 Stride Fodder, because you kind of need a witch card in your hand to discard. So usually I'll probably end up striding or using this to stride and keeping one of these in hand for Mimi's effect. So 2 is enough. You don't want to run like 4 and then like 2 of this, because then if you only run 2 of this, then Silent Tom will be really, really weak. I mean, if you really want to run more Stride Fodder, you can probably drop 1 Lala, but like you always want to have a witch to discard when you stride into Mimi. That's just basically how the deck's supposed to run. For the trigger lineup, 4 Nebula Witch No. Oh, I actually mentioned that I was running 12 crit before. That's a mistake. So I forgot that I'm actually running the stand trigger because it has Witch in the name. So Nebula Witch No. It's not the end of the world. You don't run 12 crit. It does hurt Silent Tom's effectiveness, but it's essential to run this. In places in the deck, this is kind of needed. Like at least 2 copies of this. And it's pretty decent effect too. The GB1 skill is at the end of the battle that it boosted. You can Soul Blast 1 to draw a card and return to the deck and shuffle the deck. So it recycles itself like almost all the new GB1 stand triggers do. And it replaces itself. So you can use it as a booster with this guy just to help draw another card. You can use it with her to hit 11 to a Vanguard. So it's pretty decent. And then just 4 more of the bird criticals, and then Losange Magus because she can potentially go back in the deck and heal again. For the starter, Little Witch Lulu, of course. Little Witch Lulu is a really nice starter because she hides early. Now the downside of her, there are drawbacks, there are pros and cons. So the pros is Kagero can't hit her early. So she will always ensure that she's able to empty the soul. But the downside is that you do not have a proper Vanguard booster early. So you typically, like if they don't want your Vanguard to hit, they can just throw a 10k from the hand and block you really, really easily. So that's the only downside of her. But anyway, she's still the best starter for them. It's very essential that you use that as a starter. For the strides, 2 Floral Witchmaster Mimi, because 2 is pretty good. It's enough, I feel. You can run a 3rd one, but I feel like 2 is okay. And then 4 Sword Deity of Thunderbreak. So this is one of the few, similar to my Evangeline, where I actually run like 4 of this guy, because honestly, Oracle Think Tank doesn't really have that many other things for them. So this guy to maintain hand advantage. So 4 of him allows me to stride him twice. 2 Mimis allow me to stride her twice. And then the remaining 2 can be anything you want, really. You could run Blizza. You could run even Madu, because Scarlet Witch Coco is a 10k Vanguard. You could run this guy, 9-headed dragon. He can fix messed up hands at the end of the turn that he attacked. Or you could run Kirin, and he's their typical on-hit first stride. But I wouldn't really recommend running him because you usually are going to use Mimi. So I would prefer 2 out of these 3. So I'll leave it up to you guys to decide what you would run. I personally, I'll tell you what I'm running. So I'm running Blizza, and I'm running him. The reason why I'm not running Madu, even though I'm running Coco, is because I have the Stride Fodder at 2. And it's not really... Madu's not really doing a whole lot for me. The other thing is this guy can fix my hands. There have been times where I have opened up with too many 3s early, so when I stride, I can stride a lot. but I don't necessarily need to keep like 2 extra 3s. And then Blizza is just really good as a finisher to use any last counterblast you have. There is no GB2 Vanguard, so you don't really need Blizza, but I feel like he's still ultimately more useful than Madhu in this case. So, as always guys, hope you enjoyed that deck profile video. And stay tuned for more in the future, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.